Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey, and today we will be reading some books from Canadian authors. So I'm sure I made a joke in the title of this video, but you know I'm Canada down. And so because I, for no necessarily reason whatsoever, want to support more Canadian things, I decided why not read from Canadian authors. I'm sure I have a lot of them on my TBR. Let's just pick a couple to read around Canada today and really feel the spirit. So one of the books that made me really excited to read and find out that it was from a Canadian author is One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El Akkad. This is a mix of like a memoir, nonfiction type of book that really goes into Omar El Akkad's life as a reporter and reporting on what is going on in the Middle East, specifically focusing his research in this book around the current genocide going on in Gaza and how one day we will say that we were always against this genocide. The next book I read was We Could Be Rats by Emily Austin, another author I was super surprised to find out was Canadian because I feel like she's really getting like a surgence right now and a lot of people are reading and enjoying her books. This is, I think, one of her more recently published books and it follows two sisters, one named Sigrid and one named Margaret. It's more of a character study looking into how Sigrid and Margaret grew up and how that affects them later on in life as adults. And the next book I read, a Canadian favorite, Emily St. John Mandel's Sea of Tranquility. This is a book that follows multiple timelines where in each individual timeline, the character presented hears a beautiful song played by a violin in an airship terminal. So that's all I'll say about these books. We'll get into Kelsey 1 week ago around Canada Day and I'll see you at the end. Hello, welcome to the first clip of this vlog. I'm so excited about this vlog because obviously I'm Canada down. I'm sure I've made this joke 7 million times. I love Canada, but in line with this first book, Canada also has its problems. So while I wanted to support Canadian reads and support Canadian authors, I did want to have some reflection to not idolize this country as much as I think we do, especially during times like this where our neighbors from the South are not doing well. And so we're like, we're better. And we have to like take that into retrospective that, you know, we're not the best that we can be through reading this book. So this is One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El Akkad. Through reading this book, I'm realizing like the similarities between basically us and the States. We are part of the Western imperialistic like view of the world. So along with like the British, the French, the Spanish, the colonizers. Reading this has been extremely interesting because obviously Omar El Akkad is writing this in reflection of what is going on. So he started writing this after October 7th, which sort of kickstarted a new discussion on the West's involvement in the Middle East and how the genocide in Gaza is being framed in a very specific way to perpetuate this idea that the West is still strong. We are still like the saviors of the world. And basically what this last decade is going to do, so from the 2020s, we're really changing the way that information is spread, the way that our governments do things is not as like blindly followed. I don't think it was ever like truly blindly followed for those who were like educated on certain specific topics, but I think by the masses, information is so readily available now that it's very difficult for governments, for imperialist and colonialist ideas to be followed in a way that does not receive the level of criticism that is deserved. And we're seeing that especially now, and Omar El Akkad goes into this in this book as well. I think the genocide in Gaza is really showing this level of like, hold on, like there's something not right here, because every single Democratic politician, if we talk purely on governmental elections going on in the United States that are leading towards this, I think, bubble of like new knowledge that we're getting, they will not say that there's a genocide in Gaza. They are so hesitant to not provide help to Netanyahu and like and criticize him publicly. And I think that that's really interesting. And even these sort of like leftist idealized politicians that we see are themselves not able to say that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. They're like, well, it's very complicated. Well, there's two sides of the matter. And I think it's like, no, there's a genocide going on. What that's part of what Omar El Akkad is really discussing in here, is that like in the future, we're going to be like, oh, well, I was never a part of this. I was never a part of this, especially more leftist thinking people where it's like, I could never be a part of that. However, leftist people are part of the problem because the reflections of our governmental leaders who lean more left are part of this problem. So following his life as like a journalist specifically and working within the war that the West has in the Middle East, he's really reflecting on like the damage that has been caused there, how what happened after 9/11, let's say, has perpetuated into this Islamophobic idea of Gaza, Palestine, and what's going on over there. So I think it's really interesting. I'm halfway through. I'm going to finish the rest of it today. I didn't want to update you at the third mark. Usually I update every third of a book, but because it's so short and because like it's really just discussing both his reflections on his life, how he has gotten to where he is today, how he has seen and watched the war on terror start and accumulate to today, and also throwing in facts and how the political landscape has been shaped to perpetuate these ideas. So it's been very, very, very interesting, very reflective as well. I'm obviously tabbing it because I don't think there's anything I really disagree in here. If anything, I'm like, yes, yes, say it with your full chest. When this book was doing its rounds, I didn't know that Omar El-Akkad was Canadian. I just assumed, like, I think most people outside of the US that authors are often from the US. So it's been nice to see that this is an Egyptian Canadian. He talks about how his family immigrated to Canada, the experiences that he has, and how that shapes also the way that he thinks and views the political landscape. So it's been very, very interesting. I'm going, like I said, to continue listening to this. I have a half day today with work. So I think what I'm going to do at lunchtime is like treat myself and go for a walk and maybe go pick up a banh mi or a panini. I haven't decided if I want like Italian sandwich or a Vietnamese sandwich, but I'm leaning more towards a banh mi. Oh, I forgot to mention it was Canada Day the other day and it was 45 fucking degrees. So if there's anything else that I want to say politically while we're already starting in this fucking clip, say thank you to not listening to scientists about global warming, using AI every single day, that we have these data centers that are speeding up the heating of our world. So thank you so much, ChatGPT. Love that. I'm going to continue listening to this, work a little bit, go get that banh mi. We'll probably go together and I'll update you once I'm done. Hello. So sorry if you can actually actively hear my washing machine in the background. It is the loudest thing I've ever heard. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to think about how it sounds broken because if it breaks, I don't know what the fuck we're going to do. So ignoring it for now. But I did finish One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El-Akkad. And I gave this a 5 stars. I think it's pretty apparent. I tabbed everything. I think this is an extremely needed novel, especially during these times. It was written before Donald Trump was elected for the second time. Unlike other political books that I've read that were published before the 2024 election, there's no semblance of hope in here, I find. I think Omar El-Akkad, as a journalist, as someone who's worked in observing the political atmosphere of the United States, I think was well aware of what was about to come. So I think it's nice actually to read a book from someone who thinks maybe not pessimistically, but definitely more realistic, I think. And sometimes it's nice to have hope, and sometimes it's like refreshing to be like, okay, not everyone was so hopeful. Like the detriment of society was apparent to a lot of people, I feel. I think that sounds overtly negative, but what I'm just saying is that it was refreshing to read a book published before these events. And maybe he had the semblance of hope and removed it. I don't know. But I just overall enjoyed reading from an author, I think, who thinks and views the world very similarly to me. I will say that this is not the most groundbreaking novel I've ever read. If you have a brain, if you think more left than right, you are definitely not going to be shocked by what is being discussed in this book. However, I do think because this book is very palatable, very easy to read, and has the self-reflections of Omar El-Akkad's life overall, this will be a book that one day will be read, I think, by everyone to discuss and analyze the current landscape of what is going on right now. Because he is right. I do think in the future, one day, everyone will be like, oh, that was not me. I was not a part of that. But we are all a part of it. A lot of people in their reviews are like, required reading for now, required reading for now. The thesis of this book is that a lot of people want to turn a blind eye. They don't want to look at what's occurring. One day in the future, they will read this and be like, yes, this is crazy. This is exactly what we should have been thinking at the time, as opposed to thinking and critically analyzing where they stand right now, or the bravery that they need, in quotation marks, to stand right now. So I give this 5 stars. Really, really loved it. Highly recommend. I do think it's required reading, but I think everyone who will be reading it now already thinks this way. The next 2 books are not going to be like as politically current, I believe, as this one is, or at least like overtly in your face because it is a nonfiction. But the next book I want to read is an Emily Austen book. I've heard a lot about Emily Austen these last few years and how her books are really meaningful, really impactful, and have like a very strong foot in contemporary books. Because she's a Canadian author, I was like, oh, perfect. I can finally read a book of hers. So this is We Could Be Rats. and I believe this is about two sisters. Yes, so Sigrid hates working at the Dollar Pal. Having always resisted the idea of growing up into the trappings of adulthood, she did not graduate high school, preferring to roam the streets of her small town with her best friend. Her older sister, Margit, is baffled and frustrated by Sigrid's inability to conform to the expectations of polite society. So I think I'm going to really like this because it's definitely, I love sister dynamics, and we see like a more rebellious sister and a more like conservative, not in obviously political ideologies, but conservative in the way that they act type of sister. So I'm going to start this right away. I have not yet gone to lunch because I was waiting for my washing machine to be done, which is just finished. So I'm going to put the laundry in the dryer, walk to the banh mi place, get a banh mi. I'm so excited. Maybe I'll get imperial rolls as well. I don't know, but I'm very excited to eat it. And we'll come back. I'm going to continue reading this. And because I have a half day, I don't even have to work, but I do have to clean. So let's hold me accountable. Hello, so I'm going to try talking a bit low because my son is down for a nap today, but I woke up this morning to go to spin class at 9 in the morning. So fun. I love spinning. Like, I'm one of those people. I'm in the cult. I love it. But I had that this morning, came home, just put my son down for a nap. My partner is unfortunately working today at his shop, so it's just me and my son. My mom babysat my son at least this morning, allowed me to go to spin class, which is really nice. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that he's down for a nap right now to continue reading We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. So I did get 1/3 of the way through yesterday, and this book is written in a format that I really wasn't expecting and I was a bit worried about when I first started it. And I do think people should know, because as someone with depression, it was a bit like, oh, okay. But every chapter is written as an attempt at a suicide note. And throughout each and every chapter, she is trying to relive happy moments or moments that would explain the decision that she is making. So we don't exactly know why she is trying to end her life, because she explains time and time again that it is not due to depression, even though she experiences depression. It is due to some extenuating or outstanding factors that we have not yet revealed. So what we're really just getting at is Sigrid's relationship, tumultuous relationship essentially, with her family, and her coming to terms with and understanding her sexuality and the way that she views relationships and love. And we are also looking at Sigrid's relationship with her sister and her best friend. Through these notes, you start to see that she does not really have a relationship with her best friend Greta any longer, and she does not have a relationship with her sister named Margit. As I think we are moving towards the end of the book, we're going to start to understand why there is this loss in these relationships. And so I'm really interested to see why. I am someone who has two sisters, so having close female friendships around me is really important. And I'm interested to see the dynamic here and why it's gone the way it's gone. And that's what's pulling me into continuing the story. It's definitely a very interesting character study. I've seen a lot of people on Bookstagram, BookTube, Goodreads that I trust who have rated this book 5 stars. So that is also very, very, very intriguing to me. And the fact that it is written from the perspective of someone who has sisters with depression, relatable. So I think I'm going to really enjoy it. So yeah, I'm going to read this while my son is sleeping. I do maybe want to walk. I might get banh mi again. Is that crazy? Let me know. Hello. So I do want to give a quick update just because my son is right next to me and he's fascinated when I talk to the camera when he's awake. Do you want to say anything? So we'll just quickly talk about We Could Be Rats. There was a POV change within this last third. I think it really changed the way that I view the book. The first third, like I was talking about, is written sort of through suicide notes, which was an interesting perspective. So I don't want to put my son on the internet. So sorry for this quick POV change, but it's going to be very zoomed in to my face because my son sat on top of me because he fell and he wanted to be comforted. Exactly. So basically we now have a POV shift into Margit. It's making the novel more confusing, but at the same time more interesting because I really, really don't understand what's going on between these sisters, between this relationship. It definitely puts the past suicide note chapters into perspective, coming from Margit's perspective now. So I'm very interested to see like this last third, what happens, what's the truth, and what is going on between these sisters in this relationship. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to continue listening to it right now. My son is definitely bored because we only went for one walk today. So maybe in another like hour or so, I might go for another walk just to give him like a perspective change. And maybe we'll go to the park a little bit and we'll go play. We'll see. But I'm definitely going to finish this book today, which bodes well because I'm running a little bit behind as per usual. So I'd really like to start the third book tonight as well. So catch you then. welcome to a new day. I was just crying, so please ignore me because my iPhone did like a memory album that's called Growing Up, and it showed my baby 1 year ago, which makes me depressed because he's full blown toddler right now, and 1 year ago he was a baby. So, anyways, that was nice. But yesterday I did finish We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen, and while I still really enjoyed this, and I did definitely feel the emotional punches that I was supposed to, I'm also like reluctantly disappointed. Like I don't want to be disappointed, but I am because I expected to like this one so much more. I really thought this was going to be a 5 stars or at least like a 4 star, but it ended up being more of a 3.5 stars for me. The novel really dives into the sister dynamics, which I liked, and it dives into like the more volatile aspects of growing up in a family and how those volatile dynamics between their parents, between them, affected them in different ways. It also examined depression, especially with Sigrid, but Margaret experienced it as well, and how a person's melancholic attitude affects really those around them. I really enjoyed how Austen explored these elements within the novels, like different shifting POVs and the way that these chapters were written. I thought it was really interesting. I feel like it really kept me engaged because they were shorter chapters, so I felt like I was flying through the book. I also really enjoyed the discussions that the characters Sigrid and Margaret were having within this book because I felt like I am both of these characters in many ways. I'm very similar to both of them, and I'm also a sister, so I completely understood like the dynamics as well. I don't know what was missing in here that could have made me give it a 5 stars because I definitely was relating to everything and I enjoyed my experience. So maybe it was just that my expectations were too high. I don't know, but I settled on a 3.5 stars because it's definitely better than like a mid-tier book, but not enough for me to be like, yeah, I definitely want to reread this in the future. So unfortunate, but we're moving in now to a book that I don't know if I'll give 5 stars to, but I'm definitely very excited to read it based on like all of my friends giving it 5 stars. And I've read from this author before. Let me just get the book, which is Emily St. John Mandel, and this is Sea of Tranquility. So this is her most recently published book because she is publishing a book this year as well. But like I said, I've read from Emily St. John Mandel before, really enjoyed her books. I really like her as an author. And this seems to be like a resounding love from the friends that I have around me who also read books and who've also read Emily St. John Mandel. Much like with Emily St. John Mandel's other synopsises, it is quite confusing in a way. It basically is following like multiple timelines. So the first timeline takes place in 1912, I think, right before World War One. Yes, 1912, and following a character named Edwin St. Andrews. He is crossing the Atlantic by a steamship and he enters the beauty of Canada. And then 2 centuries later, we are following an author named Olive in 2230, I believe, or something like that. And she is an author. She's traveling from her home planet, which is the moon, back to Earth to do like a book tour for this book that she wrote about a pandemic. So she's very Emily St. John Mandel coded, I think. And then we're also following this character named Gaspery Roberts, who is a hotel detective hired to investigate an anomaly in the North American wilderness. And all of these are sort of related through this area of Vancouver Island that has a mysterious like violin playing, and only certain characters are able to hear it. And I believe that that's obviously what Gaspery Roberts is probably investigating, I think. So far, the first third has been extremely confusing, much like with all of Emily St. John Mandel's books. So I'm not like surprised, and it's not bothering me because I know that she's going to tie it all together in a way that's going to make me go like, what the fuck? Oh my God, that's crazy. So I'm very excited to continue. I love Emily St. John Mandel's writing. I enjoy feeling lost with her books specifically because I know that we're going to tie it together. So far we've only seen Edwin's perspective and Olive's perspective, and we're currently in the middle of a perspective that's interacting with Gaspery Roberts the detective. So that's where I am right now. I need to clean my room because the people doing the alarms are coming over on Wednesday and I have to go to work physically tomorrow. I'm going to listen to this, start like hopefully cleaning my room, just moving some boxes, moving some clothes here and there, just so it's not like jarring to them when they walk into my room to make sure the alarm's working. Like I don't want to scare them, you know? That's my day today. See you later. Hello, welcome to my bedroom. I just cleaned my entire bedroom. If you're thinking to yourself, your bedroom's boring. Yes, me and my partner treated our home like a hotel before we had our child, and now we have our child, and so now we have no money to decorate. I also wish I had a passion for decorating, but I really don't. So we just live in our humble beginnings. While I was doing all of that, I did get another third of the way through The Sea of Tranquility, and a lot more of the plot has developed, especially because we are following more of Gaspery. Is that his name? Gaspery? Yeah. Gaspery Roberts' role in here. The connections, which I think is really fun, to the other books that Emily St. John Mandel has written, which was so fun. I was listening to it and I was like, wait a second. Gaspery, you little snake, you've been elsewhere. And so all of the connections are really, really fun. But I think if you haven't read the books, like the connections don't really mean anything to you and they're not like intrinsic to the plot. So if you're worried about that, don't be. It's just a really fun like Easter egg experience for people who have read the previous books. So anyways, like I was saying, there is definitely more of an expansion on the plot based on Gaspery Roberts' role. I don't want to talk too much about what he does because I do think it is a major spoiler. However, he does talk to individual people in different timelines as they explain how they have heard this like violin in an airship terminal. And all three of the characters that Gaspery Roberts is interviewing have heard this sound. Now, you might be thinking, aren't all these people in different timelines? Yes. Yes, they are. How does Gaspery Roberts get through all of this? We are going to be learning now. And what is the importance of this violin? We will also be getting to. I don't want to talk more about it because I do think a lot of it is mysterious, as most of Emily St. John Mandel's books are. They tend to be very mysterious. And so I don't want to get that much into spoilers because I think it spoils the like mystique of her writing and the mystique of the plot. So I'm definitely going to continue the rest of this. I don't know if I'm going to do it right now or take a little breather before my next meeting. Probably make myself a coffee actually. Actually, I think I'm going to do all of that. Maybe listen to some YouTube videos. I want to go on a walk later on, but I do have to also grocery shop. I didn't do any grocery shopping this weekend, which is like really terrible of me. So I think I might have to prioritize that, figure out what we're going to eat tonight too. And then maybe I'll finish it later tonight. Maybe we'll go on a walk with my family actually after supper. I don't know. We'll see where the wind takes us. All right, so let's get into my final thoughts on The Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. And I think this is just another hit from her. Much like with all of her previous books, I think it's really normal if you go into her books and you feel completely lost in the beginning, because it definitely takes a bit of time to really understand what's going on. Her endings make it completely worth it, but it definitely takes a bit of brain power to get there. I really, really, really enjoyed the individual characters in here, like each and every one of them, honestly. And I loved figuring out like the through line between all of them, especially how they are connected within such a wide frame of different timelines. When you discover how they are related, I think it's such a fascinating example of like plotting things and watching it develop. St. John Mandel's writing is always so incredibly beautiful, but really, really accessible. And so it makes me feel like I'm flying through the book. I'm like, yes, 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 understanding everything. And then I'm hit with the most beautiful sentence that I've ever read in my entire life. Her plot development, as I said, is so intriguing. I really had no idea how these 3 centuries of characters seemingly were going to fit together. When you trust the process and when you trust her genius, it really unfolds in that really interesting way. For people who are scared of like Easter eggs in here from her other books, if you've heard that there's Easter eggs in here from her other books, I think it was really, really fun for me because I've read all of them. So it was nice to be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But fret not, I think, if you haven't, because I think outside of like making me go like, oh my God, that's from Station 11. Oh my God, that's from The Glass Hotel. It did nothing more for the plot if you've never read those books. Like they're completely unrelated, just fun for someone who has read them all. In the end, I gave this 4 stars. Loved it. Really, really, really enjoyed it. And I'm very looking forward to reading Emily St. John Mandel's newest release this year. I was a bit on the fence about pre-ordering it, but I think I will now. So I guess now we can summarize how it feels to be Canadian down. I love being from Canada. I love being Canadian. Obviously, we have our issues. That was tackled in One Day. Everyone will have always been against this. I do think this leaned a little more American than Canadian criticism. I wish there was a bit more of Canada's criticism in here. But regardless, I think this is like an absolutely must read. I definitely agree that I think everyone one day will have always been against the genocide in Gaza. And I think that one day this book will be read in schools to look at the critiquing of this timeline. But this was great. 5 stars. Really liked it. Then I read We Could Be Rats by Emily Austin, which I gave a 3.5 stars to. Really liked it, but I wish more was done with it. That could have made me have a more like emotional feeling towards this book. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, 4 stars, solid book all around. So that's it. Those are all of the books I read for this video. Please let me know down below if one, you've read any of these books, what you thought about them. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. But also, what is your favorite book by a Canadian author? I would love to know. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there, given that they still exist and are not run by total fascism. You can follow me if you want. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel, makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye.